Yeah, so I'm going to begin by welcoming the participants to day 2 of our annual symposium. So today we have 2 sessions on mentorship, one from the mentor's perspective and one from the mentee's perspective. So Debbie, our speaker this morning or this afternoon, I don't know, depending on where you are in Canada, will be talking about the mentor's perspective. So Debbie is a professor in the School of Rehab at the Université de Montréal. She also holds a secondary affiliation at the School of Public Health. She has completed a bachelor degree in physical therapy and a master and PhD in epidemiology at McGill University. She has received numerous scholarships and awards during her career from CIHR, FRQS, Arthritis Society of Canada, and the Canadian Arthritis Network. She began her career as a pediatric physical therapist at the Montreal Children's Hospital, and then she returned to graduate school. Our main area of interest were pediatric, rheumatology, and orthopedics. And then she developed new areas of research in health services, organization of care, and access to care. She is a very productive researcher with over 175 peer-reviewed papers. But she's here to talk about mentorship because she has mentored over 65 students, graduate students, and trainees during her career. And many of these students have moved onto faculty positions at various universities. So I'm sure that she will provide sound advice to the mentors in the audience. And thank you for having accepted our invitation to present. And you can proceed if you're ready.
Well, thank you for inviting me, and it's really appreciated. And before I start, we just would like to begin by acknowledging that the land on which we gather is the traditional and unceded territory of the Canyon Kahaka Mohawk, a place which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange amongst nations. Okay, so now I am going to try and share my screen, and hopefully all will work well. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, perfect. So as Genevieve said, I am talking about mentorship from the mentor's perspective. So the plan, why can't I cannot advance my slides. Okay, I'm going to stop it and I'm going to try it again. Okay, I am going to. I think there is a problem. Just
Debbie,
a minute.
are you working on a Mac or a PC?
PC. Let me just let me go. Hang on. Let me go back to my PC and.
There's normally arrows on the bottom left to advance your slides.
Okay, hang on. Okay, let's go. Why doesn't it new share? What is going on here? Okay, give me 1 more minute. Sorry, guys.
Debbie, and if you want, I can always share for you in advance. I have the deck ready to go.
Okay, so you can share it for me in advance if you have the deck ready to go, by all means. But that means I can't advance them?
I will advance for you. I can definitely give you permission to access, and hopefully that will solve the issue. So I can do that as well.
Okay, the only thing you have to, because I have video clips, so you have to make sure that the sound works.
Okay, can everybody see my screen?
No.
No?
No, it's black.
Okay, you know what? Let me try this again. Okay, let me just try. I'm going to try it one more time. I apologize. I tried it
No
before,
problem.
and let me just go here. Okay, let me get back on here. I've done this before numerous times, and I've taught courses, so it's just something is not working. Do you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. And now, okay, perfect. Okay, so the plan today, first I'm going to define the word mentor, why become a mentor, then talk a little bit about the science behind mentorship from the mentor's perspective, models of mentoring, guidelines for good mentoring and potential barriers, and then I'm going to present some video clips on some of my favorite Quebec mentors who talk on what makes a good mentor, and then a brief conclusion. So first, the meaning of the word mentor. So I think we all know it means a trusted advisor, a friend, a teacher, a wise person. And I asked, I was looking up, what is the meaning of mentoring in the literature? And Christine Fund, who actually has a PhD in molecular biology, but has become a guru on mentoring, she's defined it as engaging in a collaborative learning relationship that proceeds through purposeful stages over time and has the primary goal of helping mentees acquire the essential competencies needed for success in their chosen career. So it's a collaborative process requiring shared responsibility between the mentor and the mentee in order for it to work. Just a little aside about the origin of the word mentor. So it actually comes from Greek mythology. In Homer's classic epic poem, The Odyssey, mentor was both a friend and counselor to Odysseus. And he actually entrusted the care of his household to Mentor, who served as a teacher and overseer to his son, Telemachus. But after the war was over, the Trojan War was over, Odysseus was condemned to wander vainly for 10 years in his attempt to return home. And in time, Telemachus, now grown, was venturing in search of his father. And Athena, the goddess of war and patroness of the arts and industry, actually had to intervene and assume the form of mentor to accompany Telemachus on his quest. But most of us do not have the good fortune of having Athena or God guide us in being mentors. So how do we become good mentors? So first of all, why be a mentor? So I asked a good friend of mine, and he basically said that he thought for the person who is the mentor, I think it allows that person to revisit their own beginnings in their career. It's beneficial because it allows the mentor to realize how far they've come and how they can help those around them with their expertise. So it reaffirms the confidence in their own capabilities. So there's a little bit of selfish gratification in this. And then Clint Eastwood, also a famous American actor and producer, said, what I think the mentor gets is the great satisfaction of helping somebody along, helping somebody take advantage of an opportunity that maybe he or she did not have. So besides reaffirming confidence and providing satisfaction, being a mentor can also enhance the mentor's own career. So what's in it for me? First, it provides an external viewpoint. It helps the mentor understand newer problems and challenges that may not have been there when he or she trained. Okay, encouragement. A mentee can often encourage creativity and innovation. It forces the mentor to be creative and innovative and get out of the routine that one often finds oneself in. Having a mentee can also bring new perspectives. And so the mentee can often see danger signs that perhaps the been there, done that eyes of a mentor may miss. And finally, a good relationship lasts over time, and the mentor can develop friendship and trusted counsel, as well as a new colleague for the future. And there are multiple advantages to being a mentor. It can improve your personal skills because you learn leadership, ability to motivate and encourage others. You learn communication skills. It can advance your career, and more academic institutions are recognizing the value of mentorship. You gain personal satisfaction, such as Clint Eastwood said, and you learn new perspectives from someone less experienced but with different background. Okay, so taking off on that learning new perspectives, actually there's something called reverse mentoring that was developed in the business world. And reverse mentoring, the goal was to attract and retain millennial talent. And I think this may be an interesting model for us to incorporate as well. So what was done, this was in the late 90s. Actually, it was instituted by Jack Welch, who was the CEO of General Electric. And it was a way to teach senior executives about the internet in the 1990s. So they paired younger employees with executive team members. But they realized that also sharing knowledge extended far beyond technology, how to connect with the younger generation, how to attract and retain younger talent, not only help with social media, but exchange of ideas to help shape recruitment strategy, and the drive for diversity and inclusion to improve understanding of minority issues. So this reverse mentoring, in a way, the younger person, the mentee now becomes the mentor and teaching the old mentor things about that are so important and that are crucial in order for retention, in order to understand things that are going on, and ensure that we have that we can retain talent in the future and recruit talent in the future. Okay, so what does the science say about mentoring from the mentor's perspective? There are several studies regarding mentees and their assessment of mentors and best mentoring practices, but there are fewer investigations of the mentor's point of view. So I'll present just two studies from the mentor's vantage point, one in Great Britain and the other in Canada. So the Academy of Medical Sciences in Great Britain has a mentoring scheme whereby clinician scientist fellows are offered mentoring from independent mentors, so outside their institution, not from the mentee's home institution. So they did a study and they surveyed 77 mentors, and 93% of them either strongly agreed or agreed that being a mentor was worthwhile. And don't forget, these are mentors who are not from the same institution as the mentee. And 69% said that they were willing to mentor again. And study interviews, qualitative interviews, indicated that the mentors felt that it was good to share experiences with an up-and-coming person and have no ties to him or her. That is, no responsibility financially or educationally. So, and they felt that this scheme gives a greater degree of freedom to really say what you think, whereas somebody from the same institution may be more reserved. Now, instead, I was going to talk about a Canadian survey on mentorship, and this was commissioned by CIHR, by the Institute of Circulatory and Respiratory Health as the primary institute, and they conducted two surveys. The surveys were done in 2015. One was done for the mentees and one for the mentors, and I'm going to talk, of course, about the mentors survey. So they actually sent out 346 invitations via email to funded researchers, CIHR funded researchers who had mentioned that they were that their primary institute was the Institute of Circulatory and Respiratory Health. Okay, and of these 346, there were 138 who completed the survey for a response rate of approximately 40%. And the goal of the study was to capture the mentor's perspective regarding the current mentoring environment. So the majority who responded were senior investigators. Most of them were non-clinicians, lab researchers in the biomedical field, and hospital-based. Okay, but 79% of respondents did not receive formal mentorship training from their institution. And of these, approximately 60% felt it would be beneficial to have access to such training. And also, 60% of respondents indicated that their present mentoring activities were not guided by a structured or systematic mentoring program within their institution. Most of the mentors who responded said that very few of them actually had formal mentorship guidelines. So only 11%, so 27% was informal and 61% said it was mixed. And 67% do not have a signed mentoring agreement. However, only a quarter of those who do not felt it would be beneficial. And they were asked also about what type of mentorship, what do they do, the current approach to mentoring. And 84% felt that they had defined goals, they had defined timelines, 77% said defined timelines, 77% said they had defined commitments for the trainee and defined commitments for the mentor. 61%. And this was actually a little bit contrary to the feedback that they got from the mentees. So the mentors did feel that they have defined goals and timelines. And despite the lack of formal mentorship, mentors felt that they met the needs of their mentees. 85% felt that they did. In terms of most significant mentee attributes, so the mentors were asked what they felt was the best, what were the best attributes that a mentee should possess. So 65% said that they had to be open to feedback, and 57% and 56% respectively said they had to be honest and sincere and enthusiastic. And in terms of the most useful mentoring strategies, 70% felt that offering mentees feedback on their research was ultra important. And then it went down to about 43% who said that providing mentees with networking opportunities were useful. Also, half of respondents feel that their present mentoring contributions were not appropriately recognized nor valued by their academic institutions. And this is important because it takes a lot of time and effort to be a good mentor. And I think more and more mentorship is being recognized, but it's interesting, this was in 2015, that 50% felt that it was not appropriately recognized. Okay, so let's talk about some models of mentoring. Okay, so we just saw two studies from the mentor's perspective, one regarding a scheme in Britain with a more structured mentorship plan with mentors outside of the home institution of the mentee, and another sort of less structured group of mentors. So we'll next look at some specific models of mentoring that have been instituted in various places. So I went to the literature and I looked at some of the more recent models of mentoring, and we'll talk about one in Canada, that an initiative that resembles the British scheme that I presented earlier. And then in the US, American models, one that's also on a national basis, the National Research Mentoring Network, and then a few that are university specific or institution specific. And finally, I'll close out with the mentorship model in my department vis-a-vis junior faculty. So the first one is this Clinician, Investigator, Trainee Association of Canada, CITAC, long distance clinician scientist trainee mentorship match in Canada. So this was launched in 2019. There's a national database of mentors for Canadian MD PhD programs. This is exclusively for the MD PhD program. And the goal was to provide equal mentorship opportunities for trainees, have them learn about career planning, and promote collaboration and networking opportunities across Canada. It's highly structured with an online platform that's convenient for networking. And they did a post-match survey, collected feedback from 16 mentees and 3 mentors. I'll present what the 3 mentors said. They reported that the mentees were open-minded and eager to ask questions. They also felt that they were able to provide advice to the mentees. There was overall satisfaction with compatibility of matches and suggestions regarding importance of preparing a list of prompts in advance to guide discussions, so that when they'll be together for their meetings, that they'll have these lists of prompts in case there's just some dead space and empty space there. There were some challenges. Shadowing is more difficult in the long distance setting, and maintenance of the long distance relationship is not known in the long term. In the US, there's a National Research Mentoring Network, which is, it's a US-based national training hub for mentors and mentees. Training is offered via various platforms, so in-person, synchronous, and asynchronous platforms. There's career stage-focused coaching models for grant writing, professional development. It provides access to a wide array of mentoring experiences and resources. And what I found interesting is that there's mentor certification with different levels of certification. So you can be certified in the first level, in the next level, and in the highest level as a mentor who's gone through this, this training. The program goals are to increase access to mentoring across career stages, improve mentoring relationships, increase access to research resources and career development, and promote the value of mentoring. And again, this is relatively new. This was in 2017. Now I'm going to talk about some very highly structured, individualized programs. This one is at the University of Utah. And it's called it's the CATS, the Clinical and Translational Scholars Matrix Mentoring Model. And it's a 2-year multi-component program. And they have a whole series of mentors. They have first the self-mentorship, where investigators are taught to be their own best mentors by being given tools to direct self-reflection, career strategic planning, understanding their priorities, decision-making regarding time investment, etc. Then there's the senior mentorship, which is provided through academic affairs and faculty development. And senior mentors actually dedicate 10% effort to the program, and they are compensated for this. So this is part of their job description. Each mentor is assigned 3 or 4 junior faculty scholars, and they are experienced. The senior mentors are experienced grant-funded investigators who are recommended by their department chairs or dean and are interviewed and selected by the program director. They receive mentor training through the academic affairs and faculty development and human resources. They meet regularly with scholars individually and in small groups. And there are a whole host of very, very specific timelines and responsibilities that they must have. Then the next level is the scientific mentorship, and that is what we are more, what we recognize more. So the senior mentors and program staff assist in identifying appropriate scientific mentors, but the scholar chooses the scientific mentoring team with input from the other stakeholders. And here again, it is very, very strictly defined that they have to meet, preferably weekly, but no less than monthly. There are written team reports. There is no remuneration for scientific mentors, since they have the opportunity to advance their own scientific interests by collaborating with the scholar on publications, grant applications. But just of note here, also, excellence in mentorship is a criterion for promotion and tenure at the University of Utah. So they value it highly. Then the next level is peer mentorship, where scholars are brought together for a 2-day orientation and for regular conferences and workshops afterwards. And they develop skills such as hiring, providing and receiving feedback, and managing team performance through human resources. They practice skills including communicating science with the media and negotiation, managing conflicts regarding authorship, and balancing clinical and research activities. And the peer mentorship has the benefit of having individuals from different divisions, departments, and disciplines. And this has resulted in joint research projects, publications, and support for grant and manuscript review. And finally, the last level is the staff mentorship, where there's non-faculty staff members who are providing mentorship. And these are individuals with expertise in grants and contracts, analysis, data management, etc., who attend senior mentor meetings and help teach the management essentials. So as you can see, it's very highly structured. And then they have elements in the course, which include scientific career development, grant writing, leadership. And they just did in the article, they mentioned that the outcomes have been positive in terms of retention of junior faculty investigators who follow this particular model. And also there's been an increase in terms of grants and awards, but it was a very qualitative. It was just mentioned like that. So I don't have hard numbers as far as that is concerned. Now, the University of California at San Francisco also has a highly structured program, probably a little less structured than the one at University of Utah, but the goal was to increase the number and caliber of research mentors and shift towards formal recognition of mentoring. So again, here's the shift. As you can see, they are shifting towards formal recognition of mentoring equivalent to teaching in the promotion process. So I think this is ultra important. If we have to value mentorship in order to have excellence in mentorship. They don't have as many levels of mentorship. You've got your lead mentor and your co-mentor, your research advisor, and your career mentor, but it's not as well defined as the one at the University of Utah. There's formal training in knowledge and skills of mentoring. There's 10 case-based seminars with panel discussions and case discussions, experiential exercises, skills development, and networking. This is really the associate, this comes from the top. The associate deans for academic affairs from the 4 professional schools are involved. I believe it's medicine, nursing, pharmacy, and kinesiology. There's also a wiki site that includes mentoring resources and seminar outlines and illustrative cases. And the training also includes enhancement of 2 main types of support, instrumental and psychosocial support. And the topics in these various seminars, etc., include defining mentoring team concept and related roles and expectations, rewards and challenges of mentoring. So this is really geared for the mentor, communicating effectively with the mentees, balancing work and life, understanding diversity among mentees, understanding economic realities for successful academic careers, leadership skills, understanding the grant process, and navigating the application process, including the IRB processes. Okay, and now at the Cleveland Clinic, they also have a mentor development program. It's a little bit older, it's 2007, but what was interesting is that they sent a survey out to ask what are the key mentor characteristics that are important. And what they found was that a lot of them were typical: expertise, integrity, respect, accessibility, good communication, but having a passion for research was probably the overwhelming key characteristic. And I think that's really important because the mentor has to be passionate. So the topics that they, in their development program, included importance and characteristics of good mentoring, relationships. So here it's the relationship, the case discussions and review of the mentoring contract. So it seems to be very, very two-sided here. The panel discussion, there's a code of mentorship, which I'm going to present in the next slide. Just as an aside, there's a code of mentorship for the mentors and for the mentees, but I'm just going to present to you the mentors' code of mentorship. Setting expectations for feedback, career development and networking, the art of asking for and accepting feedback, and introduction to learning styles, and etc., and gaining independence. And of course, influence of gender and cultural differences on the mentoring relationship, which is so important. So here's the code of mentorship. It defines terms and lists guidelines for mentors and mentees. And for the mentor, there are research mentoring expectations and career mentoring expectations. So among the research mentoring expectations, the mentor should serve as a role model and inspire, direct the mentee's progress, and be aware of the mentee's research needs and assist in obtaining resources, model creative scientific thought, encourage an open exchange of ideas, and reward excellence and provide constructive feedback. And in terms of the career mentoring expectations, the mentor should be the mentee's advocate in academic and professional communities, facilitate interaction with other researchers and professionals, and provide career guidance and encourage participation in professional meetings. At my department in the School of Rehabilitation at Université de Montréal, we have a model for mentorship of junior faculty. And there are 2 mentors. There is an academic mentor and a research mentor. So the academic mentor basically counsels on the academic career, professorial tasks, and familiarizes the mentee and sensitizes the mentee towards the department, the institution, the faculty. Whereas the research mentor advises the mentee on their research program, integrates the mentee in the research access of the mentor, and counsels the mentee regarding grant applications and facilitates networking. And there are procedures, but it is a lot less formal, as you can see. The mentors are identified by the director of the school and by the research center when the professor is hired. But the choice of mentor has to be endorsed by both stakeholders, the mentor and the mentee. So even though they're identified, you can have this mentor or that mentor, it really has to be endorsed that they agree to it. And the director of the school ensures that there's one mentor from the School of Rehabilitation and one from the research center. But the mentee organizes meetings with the mentor, supposedly at least once a year. The mentee defines and establishes the preferred communication strategies with the mentors. And the mentee is responsible for meetings, exchanges with mentors. So it's quite informal, and it's up to the mentee. The only formal part is that the mentee must attend biannual general meetings on mentorship organized by the executive committee of the school. Okay, so we have seen various programs for mentorship, some highly structured and others less so. But the next question is how to provide good mentoring and what are the potential barriers? So for both research and career mentors, there are some key responsibilities, and I did allude to this before. Being available, time commitment is key, and to be effective requires formal scheduled meetings as well as informal discussion. Acting as an advocate for the mentee, ensuring that they have protective time, and they need this in order to be successful. Insisting on the completion of projects. Although a study may be submitted as an abstract and presented, the final paper submitted for peer review is far more important. Assisting with networking, reviewing which meetings to attend and whom to contact for guidance is part of the process. And also responsibility in helping to seek extramural funding. The mentor should be proactive. And obtaining funding, as we know, can take several years. So this has to be a major focus. Now, there are pitfalls. I think the biggest pitfall is the first thing that's up there, success or failure as a researcher. So sometimes it just doesn't work out. Either the partnership between the relationship between the mentor and the mentee doesn't work out, or in fact, it just doesn't work out. Perhaps the researcher is just, the young researcher is just not cut out to be a researcher. So this has to be recognized, as soon as possible. And there may be relief on both sides when this is recognized. There are conflicts. Again, there could be conflicts with respect to availability. The mentee has to hold the mentor accountable for time commitments. The mentors must attend to their own careers, but not at the expense, of the mentees. They should avoid inappropriate authorship and asking junior colleagues to write their papers is certainly inappropriate. Relationships need to mature. The mentor has to accept that the relationship will change over time with the mentee becoming an independent investigator. The mentor must hold the mentee responsible. There's a mix of encouragement and constructive criticism that works best, but the mentor should document in writing on a regular basis ways in which the mentee is progressing. And research productivity is not always synonymous with the ability to sustain academic success. Now, there are different levels of mentoring, depending on whether the mentee is a doctoral student, a postdoctoral fellow, or a junior faculty. So for the doctoral student, there's difference between mentors and advisors. The advisor's role is to provide information on degree requirements and guidance on how to navigate the system, whereas the mentor is really the role model and provides one-on-one guidance, shepherding the student through the doctoral process, preparing the student to become a successful professional, and hopefully remaining a lifelong colleague. Although the concept of mentoring involves choice, this is not always consistent in all faculties, where instead of the student choosing the mentor, a mentor is sometimes assigned by a department head based on alignment of research interests. It doesn't mean that it doesn't work out. It's just something to keep in mind depending on which faculty or department you're in. Now, in terms of a postdoctoral fellow, the responsibility is to prepare the individual for the job market. And the mentor should not consider the fellow as simply a pair of hired hands to perform research. They must provide guidance or additional training to prepare them for the job market. And for junior faculty, formal mentoring between senior and junior faculty is common, although mentors must realize that often the junior faculty may not want or need this because of a strong mentoring presence in their PhD or postdoc program that has continued. Now, there are barriers to effective mentoring because learning to be a good mentor is time consuming. And some departments and universities do not recognize or reward mentoring. Hopefully this is changing more and more as time goes on. And sometimes the match between the mentor and mentee is not ideal. And it may include gender issues relating to gender, race, and ethnicity. And this has to be recognized. So sometimes it just doesn't work and it may need to be changed. Now, according to, and this is a seminal article in 2001 that Sackett wrote, there are 3 determinants of academic success. States that it's mentoring, creating periodic priority lists, and time management. And I dare say that the number 2 and number 3 actually mentoring can help a lot in terms of creating periodic priority lists and time management. And he said that mentoring really is provisioned by an already successful, secure academic of resources and not obligations. So providing the mentee with the space to work, occasional secretarial support, possible financial supplements or where to seek these out, opportunities, not demands, refereeing of manuscripts, if possible, accompanying mentors to meetings of ethics and grant review, writing of papers, inclusion in social and academic events. However, and here I'm quoting from Sackett, these opportunities are offered without coercion and accepted without resentment. They should not be seen as an offloading of tasks by the mentor onto the mentee. Excuse me. Advice, not orders, provision of advice regarding choice of graduate courses, scientific and methodologic challenges of their individual projects, and if warranted, their development as social beings, that is the work-life balance. Help set concrete goals while being careful not to micromanage. Protection and not coddling. Protecting the mentee from bad behavior of other academics. The mentees must get used to having their work criticized, but this needs to be done in a respectful and constructive fashion. Also, toughest, most critical questions about the work should be done during the first time rehearsal of a presentation or first reading of the work, rather than waiting for the final presentation. And finally, mentors need to intervene swiftly and decisively whenever they detect unwarranted attack on their junior colleagues or mentees. So, prerequisites for good mentors. They should be competent clinician scientists. They should have achieved academic success and feel secure to take a back seat to those being mentored in matters of authorship and recognition. Mentors should not control academic appointments or base salaries of their mentees. Mentors have to like mentoring, be willing to devote time and energy, and they must periodically seek feedback to evaluate their own performance and identify ways to improve their mentorship skills. Okay, so that we talked about mentors, and now we're going to talk about the mentor-mentee relationship. So according to Blixen, and she's the one who developed the program at the Cleveland Clinic, which I mentioned earlier, the model, which had the code as well, the code for the mentors and mentees. She says that there are three main features of successful mentor-mentee relationship: shared passion, personal compatibility, shared goals, open communication, and mutual respect and commitment to practicing good science. I think, and Dr. Fund, that molecular biologist who shifted gears and became the mentorship guru, has proposed attributes and potential metrics for assessing mentoring relationships. And these 5 attributes are in research, interpersonal, psychosocial and career, cultural responsiveness, and sponsorship. And she gives examples and possibly ways that we can measure them by surveying both mentors and mentees about their how good they are at these various attributes. I won't go through them because it's not, but you'll have them if in these slides. So now I just want to talk to you about some of my personal perspectives that emanate from the way I was mentored, as well as from the experience that I've had mentoring many at different stages of their careers. So first, understanding the needs of the mentee. Some require more formalized and contractual commitments, while others do not. In my case, this applied in all levels of mentees, that is from master's, PhD, postdocs, and even junior faculty. However, in the case of junior faculty, the increased structure came at their request. Also, being realistic in expectations is vital. Timeliness is extremely important. I feel that the responsibility to deliver quality and timely feedback is paramount. Authorship. I encourage my mentees to publish and be first authors on their publication. It is their project, and they have written the paper, even if I spend hours and hours to reshape the paper. Networking is so important as it increases visibility of the mentee and their work. I was fortunate to be a member of the Institute Advisory Board of one of the institutes of CIHR for 9 years. I was involved in young investigator forums and other activities such as strategic planning for the Institute and organizing conferences for the Institute. And I always made a point of inviting my mentees to participate in these various programs, which helped them network. And writing a successful grant proposal is a skill that is the foundation of future success as an independent researcher. So coaching the mentee to help write the proposal or contribute to it, and it is an incredibly useful exercise for the mentee. And finally, maintaining enthusiasm for research and academia and serving as a role model for the mentee is key. Although it is a demanding career, it is rewarding, stimulating, and even fun. Okay, so now I'm going to show you some video clips on what makes a good mentor by some renowned Quebec mentors. So these are some of the mentors, and I don't know whether I'll have time to go through all of them, but we'll try. This is Bonnie Swain, who is the director of the School of Rehabilitation. Whoops, I will. Can you hear it?
I believe a good mentor has similar qualities of a good leader. A good mentor is someone who is a great listener, someone who listens well to the dreams and aspirations of a student or colleague, and can effectively communicate suggestions about how that person can achieve their goals or better themselves. A good mentor encourages, highlights the positive and the strengths of a person, and tries to help him or her maximize his or her potential. This includes helping with networking, providing or informing students or colleagues about opportunities. It's about opening doors for them without any personal gains. A good mentor is also available and accessible. It can take a lot of time and require patience to get to know someone well enough to understand what he or she needs to be successful. A good mentor is honest and establishes relationships of trust with the people he or she is mentoring, and thus is able to tell a student or colleague something that that person might not want to hear.
Thank you, Bonnie. Now, Dr. Bruce Mazer, who's actually an immunologist, and he's the Associate Scientific Director of the COVID-19 Immunity Task Force.
I think that mentoring is a crucial part of being a faculty member and a crucial part of being an academic healthcare professional. And over the years, I think that I've learned some great advice from my mentors, and I've tried to pass on this advice to the people who I have had under my tutelage, the mentees. First thing is to always encourage people, to be very positive with people. But it's important to tell people that they've got to stretch their limits. I was taught that it's important to work hard and to always shoot to get up here. Because if you're up here, well, you can come down a little bit. But if you start way down at the bottom, it's very hard to climb up. Never hesitate to surround yourself with great people, because great people always make you look better. It's important for people who are coming into the system new, young people, to surround themselves with people who they'll collaborate, to build their network, to have colleagues who will support them. It's really crucial, in fact, to be able to feel like you're confident enough to take the lead on things, to take your ideas and run with them. Don't be afraid. Always believe in yourself. And if you have a good idea, really, if you have a vision, the only way to achieve anything is to take that vision and go for it. But the most important part of being a mentor and the most important part of developing a career is that you have to treat people with respect. You have to be tolerant, you have to be open, you have to be honest and be respectful. There's nothing more important than an open dialogue between mentor and mentee, between colleagues, and between anybody. I'm an immunologist, and in immunology, whenever the immune system does something, when it works well, it repairs it. So there's immune effect and immune tolerance. Same thing with human beings. Human beings have to have an effect, they have to challenge, they have to work together, but then they have to have respect and tolerance to make sure things work well. And I think as a mentor, teaching people how to treat people well is a most important aspect. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Bruce. So here, respect and tolerance is important. Now, Dr. Omer Dyer, who's an associate professor, and he's also a specialist in pedagogy.
In my opinion, one should consider really three most important qualities of a mentor besides of being knowledgeable in his field. One, I will say, is empathy, to be empathetic towards the mentee. Two, to be a proficient educator in fostering problem-solving skill in the mentee and be able to provide him with specific and constructive feedback. 3, I will say to be committed. That is to have the will to engage in the success of the mentee. Now, what are the 4 best strategies or ingredients for successful mentoring? I will say the most important one is to have a structured mentoring plan with clear objectives, a precise agenda with frequent meetings planned, and clear indicators of success. 2, I will say the mentee and the mentor should engage in proactive preparation before meetings. 3, I will say build a privileged relationship based on trust, complicity, and confidentiality. 4, I will say make the implicit explicit. The mentor must be able to make explicit his own tacit knowledge to the mentee, use his own mistakes and good moves to teach the mentee how to overcome his own challenges.
Okay, so now I'll present Annette Maynor will present her views on mentorship. She's a Vice Dean of Education in the Faculty of Medicine.
To me, a mentor is an enabler, helping others to achieve their personal and their professional goals. A mentor helps the mentee to gain the skills and the confidence to pursue their own interests and to ensure that they are successful in their path forward. There are many different characteristics of a mentor, but 3 that are important to me are: first, to be a highly responsive mentor, prioritizing the needs of my trainees above the many different competing demands that I have. Being a supportive and selfless person, shining the spotlight on the trainee, and also being a good listener and being empathetic, being able to appreciate the motivations and ambitions of the trainee, areas that they're progressing well, but importantly, understanding where they are facing challenges, whether personally or professionally, so that I can optimally guide them. In terms of different strategies, the School of Physical and Occupational Therapy at McGill provides many formal frameworks that help in terms of the graduate students' progress. They have, together we work on different goals for the year, action plans, and a timeline so that expectations are clear. However, in terms of mentorship strategies, my approach is not cookie cutter, but rather I am flexible in terms of frequency and format of meeting with the trainee in ways that suit them optimally. And I try to build trust and have a nurturing environment where we are honest with each other. I also try to make every effort to expose the trainees to different methodologies and topics by getting them involved in different projects if that is feasible. I also try to immerse them in the academic culture and community to give them a broader training and scope of knowledge. So this would include, for example, teaching opportunities, participation in national and international conferences, and other complementary training opportunities such as CCHCSP, the Child Rights Training Program, and training at the Montreal Children's Hospital and Research Institute. It has been such a privilege for me to be a mentor to graduate students, postdoctoral fellows, and to faculty members at McGill. I am extremely grateful for this opportunity as a mentor.
Thank you, Annette. I don't think we have time to go through the others unless I can go over time, but I have to stop right around now for questions. Is that it?
Yes, it will be.
Yeah, I think we just have 10 minutes to 1 o'clock. So I should
wrap it up.
If we want to take a few questions, I think we
okay, so I'll wrap it up.
Stop.
It's okay. I just this last one just Savannah Cote, who's a psychologist. It's just interesting. The one thing that she brought up was trust. That really trust is very, very important, and that wasn't mentioned in my talk nor by any of the others. All right, so I'm going to wrap it up here. I'll return to Greek mythology and talk about a competent mentor has to have a lot of qualities, as we've seen. And I don't want to insinuate that a competent mentor is a god or is like a god, certainly not. but can learn from some of the Greek mythology, some of them, particularly Athena, the Olympian god of war and wisdom, who embodies someone who could resolve conflict with her wisdom, obviously an important trait for mentorship, and Apollo, who was the embodiment of the Hellenic ideal of Kalokagathia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it correctly, but harmony, reason, and moderation personified, healing, knowledge, and harmony and reason, which are much needed in order to be a competent mentor. And I have a list of references, which if you have get a copy of the slides, you certainly can, or you can write to me and I'll share them with you. And I thank you very much for your attention. And I guess I can stop the share, right? And take any questions.
So thank you very much, Debbie. That was really inspiring for me because I'm at the beginning of my mentor career, I would say, and I really like your presentation. So I will leave Audrey-Jeanne. She will be responsible for the question period.
Yes, well, thank you very much for your talk. So if you have any question or comments for Debbie, you can raise your hand or type it in the chat box, and feel free to ask your question in either French or English as you want. So does anybody has a question? Yeah, Megan.
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for that fantastic talk. I also think, I think like Genevieve said, that I'm at the beginning of my mentoring career. And I was typing to my mentee, I wish I could rewind my life and go through some of these programs because I never had anything quite so structured. So it was a great overview and I've made lots of notes of things to follow up on. One point that I flagged for myself, I think it was from one of the Sackett papers, as you said, you know, it's good to seek feedback on your mentoring style. And I was wondering if you had suggestions about how best to do that, because obviously if it's someone you're currently mentoring, I mean, I'm not sure how to get them to be totally honest with you. Is it better to ask people you've finished mentoring, or just your suggestions on how to get feedback?
I think that's an excellent question. And I don't think there's one perfect answer. If you have a really good relationship with your mentee, and you certainly, I think along the way, it's really important to get feedback and say, am I doing what you're expecting from me? Is there anything else that you would like me to do? And ask things like that. So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, if you're having problems with a graduate student or something, you may also speak to that graduate student. I know that in some cases where I've had some problems with some graduate students, and you'd say, okay, am I being unreasonable here, or do we need to let's rework this? Let's in some cases, because I've made things much more explicit and much more contractual, like with some students and some, well, obviously junior faculty is in a different area, but with some students or even postdoctoral fellows, sometimes you have to really define the responsibilities and what each of your responsibilities are. So I think defining things certainly helps, but asking feedback regularly is in both cases, when things are working well and you have confidence, but also when things are not working so well, and say, okay, something is wrong here. It's not working. What can we do, and how can I be better?
Thanks.
Thank you. There's a question. Oh, I cannot see your name. Anna, I think, so is asking. So it can be scary to be responsible in part for some people's successes when you're already in your own research career. So what are some concrete actions that can be taken to make it the most beneficial possible on both ends? Okay,
I'll obviously speak about it from a personal perspective. When you, for example, I can talk about some junior faculty that I'm mentoring, and I can say that somebody, in Quebec, you can apply to become a chercheur boursier. You can apply for a career funding from the Quebec research funding Society. And or just like you can apply for a new investigator at CIHR or in other provinces in their funding schemes. But sometimes you're not ready. Okay, sometimes you can say, okay, I want to apply for this, and I don't think I'm ready. So you have to be there to tell the new faculty, okay, I think you need to bolster certain things. You either have to get more publications or really start getting some funding from some smaller funding agencies, something so that you can improve your application, because you don't want your mentee to apply for something and just be blown out of the water. So you are responsible early on. To some concrete actions is to give them fair advice and to help them find areas where they can apply for funds, or to write a couple of papers in some areas, or so these are some concrete actions. Like I have helped some of my mentees and said, okay, let's okay, you're doing this in this project. Okay, why don't you do you've done the lit review, you can write up something. You can write up you can alter it, you can write it up either as a narrative review or switch it into a systematic review, go and work on it and get a publication out of it. So that some concrete actions to improve their dossier so that they can be more competitive. Now, I don't know if I'm answering the question, but you are responsible for someone's success. Yes, you're definitely, you really want to pave the way for that person to be successful. So I think some other concrete actions, I can tell you that something that I just did recently is that I had a group of students who were working in physiotherapy. We have they have to do a master's project. Okay, it is not a master's, it's not a thesis, but it's a project. So I had them do a project, and one of the young faculty who was with me, I said to her, I said, well, why don't you help out with this project? I think it's really good, and we can publish it. And I mean, we had to go through ethics, we did a survey, and we did a whole small project here with the students, and we got a publication out of it. The 4 students who worked on it, plus the junior faculty, plus myself, we got a publication. This is something that will bolster it is beneficial, and it's really on a very interesting, it's a small scale thing because they do it within 6 months time, so it's not a large study, but it was something that that was publishable and interesting, and can help everybody's career. So that's something concrete. But I don't know whether if there's something more specific you want to add.
I don't know. If I'm talking, for me, it's really answering. I think those are really good tips and tricks you're giving us in concrete actions. So thank you very much. We have so she's saying, thanks, that's very helpful. So we have a time for a last short question and short answer if someone asks.
Maybe I can ask one if nobody else wants to ask one. I was really interested.
Megan,
I don't know if Megan it's a new question. Yeah, another question? Go ahead. Go ahead.
About, sorry, are you going, Genevieve?
No, go ahead.
My question's about, offering opportunities to mentees, which I agree is really important, but also being mindful that they don't get overwhelmed. And I'm thinking more of senior mentees where they're supposed to be building independence. So I want to trust them to make their own decisions. But I'm worried sometimes that they get overwhelmed and maybe don't make the best decisions about taking on too much. But I know in my own experience as a trainee, I was told a couple of times, like, you can't do this, you can't go to this conference, you need to focus on whatever. And I really didn't appreciate that. So I'm trying to not do that to my mentees, but then also giving them many opportunities. Sometimes I see them getting overwhelmed. So your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, I think there's that fine line. You're not going to bar them from doing certain things, and they might have a difference of opinion. Like you said, you didn't appreciate when someone said you don't do this, or No, but you can tell them, such as I mentioned in the presentation, for example, presenting at conferences is great, and certainly when you're young career investigator, it's important to network. But really, it's the paper that counts. It's the abstract is not really that important in the long run. So I think you can counsel them and say, look, it's their decision. But what's important is to get things done, is to finish it. What else? Sorry, Megan, maybe I lost the train of thought. What you?
Like conferences are one example, but even just other things, like I feel like, oh, I want to offer them this opportunity, and I'm careful to say, but you decide, like no pressure. But I think, of course, it's tempting to say, oh yeah, I do want to write that paper, I do want to give that presentation, and then maybe sometimes they get in over their head.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question you can offer, and everyone's circumstance is different. I mean, somebody could could have a young child at home and who's keeping them up at night, or I don't know what, and they're having difficulty coping. I mean, so everyone's situation is different, and obviously there has to be this, and I didn't present that last clip by Sildana Cote, but she really said there's this trust. I mean, you have a mentee, there has to be some trust that they also know what's good for themselves. And if they are overwhelmed, they can come to you and say, look, I'm just having such a hard time. There has to be this honesty, and so that you're able to sort of guide them and say, you know what, it happened to me too, or I've seen this as well. There's no shame in saying, okay, I can't deliver on this. It's just impossible, especially somebody who you know is a quality person and who's done so much in the past, but they can't do it at some, there's something going on in their lives, or it's just too much right now. That's okay too. There has to be this trust. I don't know if that helped, but
I agree. It definitely has happened to me, so I like that suggestion. Thanks.
All right, I think the time is up. So thank you very much again, Debbie, for your excellent talk and the great discussion that followed. So the next, we have a 10-minute break, and then we have a child health research talk about challenges, solutions, and success by Dr. Anne-Monique Nuy. So see you later. Thanks again, Debbie.
thank you. Have a good
Bye-bye.
Bye.